Welcome back. In this lecture, I'll show you how to connect to networking devices and Linux servers from Python scripts using SSH and Paramiko. We'll use this very simple topology with only one router. Even though there is another topology with more devices, there should be no difference. All we need is a layer 3 connectivity and SSH access from the machine that runs the Python scripts to the device we want to configure. Before beginning, I recommend you to test the network connection between the admin host and the device that runs in GNS3. So I'm opening a terminal and pinging it. Ping and its IP address 10.1.1.10, and ping is working. And I also test SSH using PuTTY. I want to be sure that I have SSH access to the device. I'm opening PuTTY and I'm writing the IP address of the router. 10.1.1.10, the port is 22, and SSH, and open. And it's working. User U1 and password Cisco. If something isn't working properly, you have to troubleshoot the problem and make it work. Check that the correct IP address is configured on the router's interface, that the interface is up, and so on. Now, let's return to Python and start creating our script. The first thing to do is to import the Paramiko module. Then, I'll create a Python object of type SSH client. You can think of it as a PuTTY or another SSH client application. So SSH client equals paramiko.ssh client. If I print out its type, we'll notice it's an object of paramiko.client.ssh client class. So print type SSH client. And I'm executing the script. This is the type of the object. The next step is to connect to the SSH daemon that runs on the networking device in GNS3 using the SSH client we've just created. To do that, I'm gonna call the connect method. So SSH client.connect, and I'm gonna use keyword arguments, and that means the name of the argument equals and its value. If I just write their values without specifying the name of the argument, I have to write the arguments in the order they have been provided in the method's definition, and I don't want to memorize that order. So hostname equals, and the server's IP address 10.1.1.10. The second argument port equals 22, the default SSH port. Username equals U1. Password equals, and the user's password, which is Cisco, written in lowercase. And there are two more arguments, and I'll write them on the next line, so I can hit the enter key. The first argument is look for keys equals false, and allow agent equals false. Okay. There are mainly two methods to authenticate to an SSH daemon: using username and password, or using public key authentication. In this case, we do not use public key authentication, but a user and a password. That's why I've written look for keys equals false. We are not using keys. And allow agent false. We do not use the SSH agent, which is another application that keeps a decrypted, a clear text copy of the private key in the RAM memory. So these two arguments are related. Let's try to run the script. and we notice an error. Server and the server's IP address not found in known hosts. What does that mean and how can we solve it? I'm sure that if you have used SSH before, you already know what is this about. When an SSH client authenticates to an SSH server, it uses a fingerprint to identify it. Sometimes you might have seen a warning related to the host fingerprint, either that it cannot be verified or that it has changed. Let me show you this warning in PuTTY. I'm opening PuTTY and I'm connecting to another SSH server. And open. This is the warning I'm talking about. The host key is randomly generated when the SSH server is set up and is used to identify the server you are connecting to. This mitigates possible man-in-the-middle attacks. In our Python script example, the SSH client, which is implemented by Paramiko, cannot verify the server's host key, therefore this error. What we can do is call another method that automatically accepts the server host key before connecting to the server. So here, before connecting, I'm calling another method, SSH client dot set missing host key policy, and the argument is paramiko dot auto add policy. And this is a function, so don't forget to call it. Use a pair of parentheses. In simpler words, this means that it will accept the host key. I'm running the script again. And there's no error. If you want to check that the connection is active, you can write something like this. Print ssh client dot get transport dot is active. And it will return true or false. True. So the connection is active. At this point, we can send commands to the device through the SSH connection to execute them. However, we'll see how to do it in detail in the next lecture. Before exiting the script, it's a good practice to close the client by calling the close method. So ssh client.close. And one last thing I want to do is to print out some messages so that the user knows what's happening. Print connecting to and the SSH daemon IP address. And here print closing connection. I'm running the script again to check that there's no error. Okay, this script does nothing useful for the moment. It simply connects successfully to the device and then disconnects. In the next lecture, we'll add more functionality, and that means executing commands on the remote devices.